Hello everyone, welcome to ProdEgyIAS. Today I'm here with another topic, and the topic is scope of sociology and formalist versus synthetic school. This is a very important topic in sociology. So, the scope of sociology and the major debates around it. The debates always talk about its formalist versus synthetic school. Why is this important? Because the way we define sociology scope decides what we include or exclude as sociological knowledge. When sociology was still developing as a discipline, scholars were divided. Should sociology remain a specialist science, focusing only on the pure forms of relationships? Or should it become a general science, studying society in its entirety? This debate gave rise to two important schools of thought. First is formalist, which is called specialist school of thought, and the second was synthetic school. First, let's discuss the scope of sociology. Sociology's subject matter is extremely wide. It can study micro level relations like teacher student interaction, like the relationships in a family, macro level issues like caste conflict, poverty, or globalization, or even emerging areas like impact of digital media on youth. Think of sociology like a wide angle camera lens. It doesn't just capture one person, it captures the entire scene with its background. But this very breadth raised a question: should sociology study everything social, or should it limit itself to a narrower field to avoid losing focus? The first school of thought, the formalist or specialist approach, represented by thinkers like George Simmel, Weir, Kant, and Small, argued that sociology should have a narrow, precise identity. Simmel compared sociology to geometry. He said just as geometry studied shapes like circle, square, triangle without worrying about their material, sociology should study the forms of social relationships like cooperation, competition. According to this school, sociology should be a pure science of forms, not distracted by economics, politics, or psychology. For instance, when we study conflict, sociology should look at the general pattern of conflict itself, whether it occurs in labor unions, caste groups, or families. But what is the analogy here? Imagine a music teacher who focuses only on musical notes, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa, and not on the lyrics or the emotions. That's what the formalist school wanted sociology to be, focused only on forms, which should not be the case, and which is not the case, of course. Sociology is widely spread disciplines to be studied in a scientific way. What is the criticism of this formalist school? While the formalist school gave sociology a clarity, it was heavily criticized because it was too abstract. Studying conflict without knowing whether it is a casteoid or trade dispute or family quarrel, it is meaningless. How we can study conflict without its context? So real life cannot be separated from its context. Second is artificial separation. Social life is not neatly divided. Economic, political, cultural forces are deeply interrelated. For any individual, every circumstance plays a very important role in his life, and when it plays a role in his life, eventually and substantially it will be reflected in his behavior as a part of the society. So separating them makes sociology unrealistic, obviously, and its limited scope. By focusing only on forms, this school narrowed sociology excessively. It ignored concrete issues like poverty, inequality, or institutions. And what about the dynamic nature of society? Sorokin, a sociologist, rightly said, we may fill a glass with wine or sugar without changing its form, but social institutions cannot exist without changing contents. In other words, relationships are living, they are not fixed, they are not material, they are living. So, the formalist school tried to purify sociology, but it ended up making it impractical. Now, the second thought of school was synthetic school, the general science approach. In contrast, this synthetic school, represented by Durkheim, Hobhouse, and Sorokin, argued that sociology should be a general and comprehensive science of study. They believed that all aspects of social life, economic, political, cultural, religious, are interconnected, and they are, as we can see in this society, as we can see our lives today. Sociology, therefore, should study society in its entirety, as a whole, as a holistic view. For example, when we study family disorganization, we cannot ignore unemployment, economic factor, which is a very important, divorce laws, which is a political factor, or psychological stress. So, sociology integrates all these together. If the formalist school is like studying a tree's leaves in isolation, the synthetic school is like studying the entire forest, its trees, its soil, animals, and climate together. Thus, the synthetic school sees sociology as encyclopedic and synotopic, a unifying discipline that synthesizes knowledge from other social sciences. What is the modern understanding of scope of it? Most contemporary sociologists lean toward the synthetic approach. Why? Because society is too complex to be understood through abstract forms alone. Sociology today studies both micro level interactions like in everyday life and macro level structures like Marx's study of class or Durkheim's study of collective conscience. It uses methods for statistics, anthropology, psychology, and pol science, but applies them to uncover the social dimension of all phenomena. Feminist and interdisciplinary perspectives have further broadened the sociology, showing that you cannot study politics, economics, or culture without considering gender and family roles. So, in this sense, sociology has become the bridge discipline among the social sciences. So, to sum up everything we have studied so far in this class, the formalist school wanted sociology to be a narrow form of science, like geometry of society. The synthetic school wanted sociology to be a general science, studying society as a whole, because everything in society is interconnected. Today, sociology is the best understood as broad, dynamic, and integrative. It borrows insights from other disciplines but always brings them back to the social context. So, the key takeaway for you is that sociology does not limit itself to isolated facts. It asks bigger questions: how relationships are structured, how do they change, how do culture, economy, and politics interact. And in doing so, sociology gives us not just information but a way of seeing society in its totality. So in this way we got to know everything about the sociology and its schools of thought. So thank you so much. We'll be again coming with another topic soon in your sociology UPSC paper. Thank you so much. Stay tuned to ProdEgyIAS.